We set a clear policy, demilitarization of the area south of Damascus, from the Golan to the Druze mountain region. That's one line. The second line is protecting the brothers of our brothers, the Druze on the Druze mountain. Both of these things were violated by the regime in Damascus. He set the army south of Damascus into the area that was supposed to be demilitarized, and he began massacring the Druze. We could not accept this in any way, so I instructed the IDF to act, and to act forcefully, to tip the scales against both the murder gangs and the regime.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that a ceasefire in southern Syria was achieved by force, not negotiation. Netanyahu revealed that Israeli airstrikes recently targeted Syrian troops, armored vehicles, and even government buildings in Damascus, including the Ministry of Defense. Netanyahu said the strikes were launched after reports emerged of Druze civilians being slaughtered by Syrian government forces. In a statement, he outlined Israel's twofold policy: demilitarize the region south of Damascus, stretching from the Golan Heights to the Druze mountain, and protect the Druze community, calling them the brothers of our brothers. According to Netanyahu, the Israeli offensive forced Syrian forces to retreat and halt operations. A ceasefire he claimed was secured through strength, not pleading.
I would like to update you on what we have done in Syria and what we will do in Syria. We set a clear policy, demilitarization of the area south of Damascus, from the Golan to the Druze mountain region. That's one line. The second line is protecting the brothers of our brothers, the Druze on the Druze mountain. Both of these things were violated by the regime in Damascus. He set the army south of Damascus into the area that was supposed to be demilitarized, and he began massacring the Druze. We could not accept this in any way, so I instructed the IDF to act, and to act forcefully, to tip the scales against both the murder gangs and the regime. And I also ordered to strike the Ministry of Defense in Damascus. As a result of this massive operation, a ceasefire was established, and the Syrian forces retreated back to Damascus. This is important. This is a ceasefire that was achieved through strength. Not through requests, not through pleas, but through strength. And we achieve peace through strength, quiet through strength, security through strength, on 7 fronts. This will also continue to be our policy. We will not allow military forces to move south of Damascus. We will not allow harm to come to the Druze in Jabal al-Druze. I want to share with you something that moved me deeply in the past 2 days. Sheikh Morfak Tarif, the leader of the Druze in Israel, reached out to me, and he told me the following. He said to me, with a somber and reflective tone, during the horrific period of the Holocaust, when you, the Jewish people, were enduring unimaginable suffering and systematic persecution, you cried out for assistance and desperately called for help, yet tragically, no one came to your aid. Today, we, the Druze community, are facing similar hardships and are also being unjustly persecuted, experiencing our own profound struggles and challenges.
Israel has repeatedly hit Syrian positions this week, citing both the protection of the Druze and the enforcement of the buffer zone. Strikes were confirmed on regime armor in Sueda, military targets in Damascus, and even near the presidential palace. At least 3 people reportedly died in the Damascus strikes. The violence erupted amid deadly clashes between Druze fighters, Bedouin tribes, and Syrian government forces in Sueda province, which is the heartland of Syria's Druze community. Over 300 have been killed since Sunday, including 165 regime troops and 27 Druze civilians, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Syrian President al-Sharaa says protecting the country's Druze citizens and their rights is a priority as he announces that local leaders will take control of security in the city of Sueda, in a bid to end sectarian violence in the south and in the wake of deadly Israeli strikes in Damascus. In a televised speech on Thursday, the Syrian leader addressed days of fierce fighting involving Druze armed groups, Bedouin tribes, and government forces in the predominantly Druze city of Sueda.
Amidst the events that are shaking our beloved homeland, I find it a national duty to address these words to you, as a heartfelt message to this people who have always defied hardships and never wavered from their steadfast principles. Our people, who have sacrificed so much, both precious and dear, so that Syria may remain free and proud, at the forefront of nations striving for dignity and honor. Our people rose up in a revolution to gain their freedom, and they triumphed, making tremendous sacrifices. And this people remain ever ready to fight for their dignity should it face any threat. O proud Syrian people! Today, as we face this new challenge, we find ourselves in the midst of a battle aimed at protecting the unity of our country, the dignity of our people, and the resilience of our nation. The Israeli entity, which has always made a habit of targeting our stability and sowing discord among us since the fall of the former regime, is now once again seeking to turn our pure land into a perpetual arena of chaos, through which it aims to fragment the unity of our people and weaken our ability to move forward on the path of reconstruction and progress. This entity never ceases to use every method to sow disputes and conflicts, forgetting the fact that Syrians, throughout their long history, have always rejected any form of separation or division. Possessing great power does not necessarily mean achieving victory, just as winning on one front does not guarantee success on another. You may be able to start a war, but it is not easy to control its outcome. For we are the children of this land, the most capable of overcoming all the Israeli entity's attempts to tear us apart, and we are too steadfast for our resolve to be shaken by fabricated strife. We, the people of Syria, know very well who is trying to drag us into war and who seeks to divide us. And we will not give them the chance to entangle our people in a war they wish to ignite on our land. A war that has no purpose other than to fragment our homeland and scatter our efforts into chaos and destruction. For Syria is not a testing ground for foreign conspiracies, nor a place for others to pursue their ambitions at the expense of our children's and women's blood. The Syrian state is a state for everyone. It is the dignity and pride of the nation. It is the dream of every Syrian to see their homeland rebuild itself anew through this state. Let us all unite, without discrimination, to restore Syria's prestige and place it at the forefront of nations living in security and stability. Building a new Syria requires all of us to rally around our state and commit to its principles, and to put the interests of the nation above any individual or narrow interests. What we need today is for all of us to be partners in this reconstruction, and to work hand in hand to overcome all the challenges we face. Unity is our weapon, hard work is our path, and our steadfast will is the foundation upon which we will build this bright future. I would also like to especially mention in my speech our Druze brethren, who are an integral part of the fabric of this nation. Syria will never be a place for division, fragmentation, or the sowing of discord among its people. We assure you that protecting your rights and freedoms is one of our top priorities, and that we reject any attempt to drag you towards an external party or to create division within our ranks. We are all partners on this land, and we will not allow any group whatsoever to distort this beautiful image that represents Syria and its diversity. The Syrian state, with all its institutions and leadership, intervened with full determination and resolve to put an end to the internal fighting that took place in Sueda between armed groups from Sueda and surrounding areas as a result of old disputes. But instead of helping the state to calm the situation, groups outside the law appeared, groups accustomed to chaos, disorder, and stirring up strife. And the leaders of these gangs are the very same ones who refused dialogue for many months, putting their narrow personal interests above the interests of the nation. And in recent days, they have committed various crimes against civilians. Despite this, The Ministries of Defense and Interior carried out a wide deployment in Sueda province as part of their diligent efforts to restore security and put an end to the escalation that the area has witnessed. They succeeded in restoring stability and expelling the outlawed factions despite Israeli interventions. At this point, the Israeli entity resorted to widespread targeting of civilian and government facilities to undermine these efforts, which greatly complicated the situation and pushed matters toward a large-scale escalation, if not for the effective intervention of American, Arab, and Turkish mediation that saved the region from an uncertain fate. So we were faced with two options: open war with the Israeli entity at the expense of our Druze people and their hopes, and destabilizing Syria and the entire region, or allowing the Druze elders and sheikhs the opportunity to come to their senses and put national interests above those who want to tarnish the reputation of the honorable people of the mountain. We are not among those who fear war. We are the ones who have spent our lives facing challenges and defending our people. But we put the interests of Syrians above chaos and destruction. So the best option at this stage was to make a precise decision to protect the unity of our homeland and the safety of its people, based on the supreme national interest. Therefore, we decided to assign some local factions and the Druze religious leaders the responsibility of maintaining security in Sueda, emphasizing that this decision stems from our deep awareness of the gravity of the situation for our national unity, and to avoid dragging the country into a new, wide-scale war that could pull it further away from its major goals of recovering from the devastating war, and to keep it away from the political and economic hardships left behind by the former regime. In conclusion, we are committed to holding accountable anyone who has wronged or harmed our Druze brethren. They are under the protection and responsibility of the state. The law and justice safeguard the rights of everyone without exception. We affirm that preserving the unity and stability of the country, the safety of our people, and working to secure a future for their children away from any dangers may guide the path of progress and recovery we are pursuing after the liberation of our country. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Peace and mercy and blessings of Allah be upon you. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon his trustworthy messenger, and upon all his family and companions.